Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling Subledger accounting or SLA, and this is lesson 1. Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction. And welcome everybody to this lesson in our Financials Functional Training series. As Bob said, this is our first lesson covering the Subledger accounting module. So this is going to be an introduction lesson. We're going to have an overview of the SLA module, what it is, what the purpose is, and how it interacts with the other Oracle applications or Oracle modules. We have the purpose of this module is perhaps evident in the name, and we have talked about creating accounting when we were discussing our AP module. So let's get right into it. So what is the Subledger accounting module? The purpose of SLA is to create accounting information for the Subledger modules. Okay, so that is the purpose of this module. We know what create accounting is and what it entails. So that is a function that is carried out by the SLA module. And for this purpose, it uses the create accounting program. Again, we talked about this. We have seen this in action when we were talking about creating accounting in AP module. Now, it might seem that when we are doing create accounting, we were doing it from AP, but actually this create accounting program is owned by the SLA module. So we know that the Subledger modules, in the Subledger modules which support the GL, we enter transactions. Okay, for example, in AP, we enter transactions that are involved in the P2P part of the business cycle. In AR, we enter transactions that are in the order to cash part of the business cycle. So when we enter those transactions, some of them, not all of them, or many of them, then we'll need to have we'll need to have accounting information created for them. Okay. So what happens is that when we enter these transactions in the Subledger modules, then these Subledger modules, they send these transaction events to SLA. When you run create accounting or when you create accounting. So what will happen is that depending on the event, then accounting will be created, and it is based on some rules, okay, which we are going to talk about. So for example, let's use AP. In AP, we can enter an invoice, okay? When we enter an invoice, we validate it. And we say that once we validate that invoice, is basically we are recognizing that particular expense. So that is an event for which accounting can be created, right? because when you validate an invoice, as we saw when we were in AP, what happens is that you are acknowledging that particular liability, all right? And you're also incurring an expense. Those are we can say those are the accounts that are involved. So when you create accounting, what happens is that AP will send that transaction event to SLA, okay? And now based on the rules, these rules which you're talking about, which we can define in SLA, then accounting information is created. And basically, when we say accounting information is created, it's that journal entries are created to be sent to GL, okay? And we saw that when we run create accounting, we have a journal import program that is launched, and journals are sent to general ledger. So that is basically what happens. A transaction occurs. We enter the details of that transaction in the particular Subledger module. When we run create accounting program, that Subledger sends that transaction information or that transaction event to SLA, and then SLA looks at that transaction event, and based on rules which can be created or modified because some of them are seeded in Oracle, then it creates accounting information for that particular event, or basically it creates journals. So that is the purpose of the Subledger accounting module. But apart from that, it is also it acts like a central repository for accounting information. So what this means is that you can go and carry out reports or inquiries on accounting information in the SLA module. The SLA module is a new introduction that came with Oracle release 12, which centralized this creating of accounting function in SLA. Previously, the earlier versions of Oracle release 11, each Subledger module would have its own create accounting engine. Okay, so it was not one central location or one central module which was creating accounting for all the Subledger modules. So this is just a representation of the relationship between the Subledger modules, and then we have the SLA module itself and general ledger. Okay, so we have said that the Subledger modules, we enter transactions. Okay, so for example, invoices, we have payments in AP. Okay, in AR we could have receipts. Okay, so when we run create accounting, that transaction, those transaction events are sent to the Subledger accounting module. Then the Subledger accounting module will create accounting, and that accounting information will be sent to general ledger in the form of what? In the form of journal entries. Okay, journals and journal lines. So that is the takeaway from this particular representation. Now, as we talk about this SLA module, we are going to use a lot of terms which might be a bit difficult or hard to keep track of. So we are going to do it slowly. We are going to do it step by step so that we ensure we know what every term means, or what every feature does, so we can have a clear understanding of all these things that we are going to talk about. Okay. So let's start with these three terms here. Accounting methods builder. So accounting methods builder is basically the menu options. Okay, the menu options that allow you to configure these features that define how accounting is created for Subledger modules. Okay, so when you think about accounting methods builder, don't think about it as like a single entity which you can go to and click account methods builder. All right. So when you talk about accounting methods builder, we are talking about the menu options that actually help you to create or to define the rules of how your accounting will be created. Okay. So that is what we refer to as accounting methods builder. And basically, with the accounting methods builder, what we configure is, for example, what journal lines are going to be generated, right? What journal lines are going to be generated on a particular event takes place. For example, when you cancel an invoice, or when you validate an invoice, or when you make a payment and void a payment. All right. So basically, a takeaway is that accounting methods builder refers to the menu options that help you configure the rules of how accounting is created for your Subledger modules. Okay. Let's talk about Subledger accounting method. So if I take you back to our general ledger module, when we are creating our ledger, we said that to have a workable GL module, we need to have the 4 C's, right? We need to have a chart of accounts. We need to have the functional currency. We need to have a calendar. And the other one that we need is the Subledger accounting method. Okay. So if I take you quickly to Oracle, so if you go to accounting setups, right here, let's look for maybe Mascani Group US. And let's go to this Mascani Group US ledger and select update. So when we are creating our ledger, we entered the 4 C's, okay? So we had our currency, functional currency. We had our chart of accounts, which we call Mascani Group chart of accounts, okay? We also had our calendar, our accounting calendar, the Mascani Group calendar. And then we had this subledger accounting method, okay? And the method that we selected for ours is standard accrual, okay? So what is a subledger accounting method? The subledger accounting method determines how accounting will be created for all of your subledger modules, okay? So we associate a subledger accounting method with a ledger, all right? Within that subledger accounting method are the rules which determine how accounting will be created for your subledger modules, all right? Now, let's go back to our slides. Your subledger accounting method comprises of application accounting definition, okay? So a subledger accounting method is made up of several application accounting definitions. And what does that mean? Your application accounting definition is what dictates what and how accounting will be created for each application. When I say application, I mean module, okay? So what does that mean? For example, a payables module will have the payables application accounting definition. Receivables will have the receivables accounting application accounting definition, okay? So each subledger module will have your its own application accounting definition, within which are the rules that determine how accounting will be created for the transaction events that take place within that module or that are recorded within that module. So when you put this application accounting definition together, they will give you a subledger accounting method, all right? So that grouping of application accounting definition makes up your subledger accounting method, which is what you associate with your ledger, okay? So because your ledger is receiving accounting information from all the subledger modules which you are using, which have been installed, all right? So once you associate that subledger accounting method with your ledger, then it becomes your 4th C, the the Subledger accounting method. Now, just to go back to the accounting methods builder, the accounting methods builder, those menu options, they will allow you to create or to modify the application accounting definitions. All right. They also allow you to modify or to create other features within the application accounting definitions, lower in the hierarchy. I don't want to introduce them too fast so that we don't get confused. So basically what I'm saying is that you use the accounting methods builder, you go and define the rules of how you want the accounting to be created, okay? There are other levels of hierarchy below accounting, application accounting definition, which we are going to talk about. But basically, once you configure all those, you will come and you will put them in. They will be grouped as application accounting definitions for each Subledger module, okay? And then when you put those application accounting definitions together, they will give you a Subledger accounting method or a Subledger accounting convention, which is what you associate with your ledger, all right? Which is now what you go and put here, all right? So I've just searched some of the Subledger accounting methods that we have here. Each of these Subledger accounting methods contains application accounting definitions which dictate how accounting is created for each module, okay? So all of these are accounting methods which are different to each other because of how accounting is created, all right? So let me put the standard accrual back. It's right here anyway. The other thing you can see here is that some of them are seeded, okay? Meaning that they are owned by Oracle and others are user defined, okay? So these are also things that we are going to talk about, ownership of these features, but let's not get sidetracked. Okay, I don't want to talk about this right now, so let's do now a quick recap. Subledger accounting module creates accounting for the Subledger modules. Okay, it is a central location which houses the rules of how accounting will be created for Subledger modules. Basically, how the journals will look like when they are sent to general ledger. It's also a central storage location for this accounting information. So if you want to run reports or do inquiries, you can go there and do that. Okay. And this is a pictorial representation of that fact. The Subledger modules, you enter transaction events in them. They send information about these transaction events to the Subledger accounting module. Based on the rules housed in this Subledger accounting module, for each of these Subledger modules, accounting is created, which basically means journals are created, and it is these journals that are sent to GL. All right, and we have seen this in action in our AP module. We have also talked about these three terms: accounting methods builder, which we have said is a group of menu options which allow you to modify the rules of how accounting is created, okay, at various levels. Subledger accounting method is one of the 4 C's that we talked about, which you associate with your ledger, okay, and it determines how accounting is created for all of your Subledger modules. And the best way to think about the Subledger accounting method is as a grouping of application accounting definitions. All right. So when we come to the point where we have to modify those rules or to select those rules that determine how accounting is created, we will do those modifications or those creations starting at the application accounting definition level, going down. Okay, so the Subledger accounting method per se is not something that like you can modify to determine a certain output, but rather it's a grouping of these application accounting definitions. And once you have that grouping which contains the rules, then it is called your Subledger accounting method, and that is what you attach to your ledger, as you have seen. All right. Okay, so I don't want to talk about more features to avoid confusion. I can first absorb that information. And so, Bob, unless you have something to add, that's a good place to end this session today.
Thank you, Victor.